Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Human Echoes podcast.
I'm Albert Berg.
I'm Tony Southcott.
And we are coming to you today with a movie that is very near and dear to my heart. And also to kick off Mockbuster month in the month of, is it May now, Tony?
Yes, it's
May. I get
May.
my March mixed up. Month of March is Mockbuster month, and we are rocking it out with week one with the greatest Sharknado movie ever made, Tony. Sharknado 3.
Until Sharknado, the fourth awakens.
Well, we'll see. They can totally drop the ball. Okay, so we have a sort of weird and varied history on these movies, Tony. As all of y'all know, I absolutely love schlock. I love B movies. I love these sort of really bad sci-fi channel. Not all of them, but
it's a little bit hard to predict for you, like which ones you're going to like and which ones you're not going to.
Well, it's just like a regular movie, Tony. So you go into some movies and you like them, and some movies you don't. I approach schlock the same way. I don't judge it on its quality relative to other films, because that would be ridiculous. Obviously, they're not of the same quality as a big blockbuster film, but on their own merits, I judge them, and you know how much I enjoy the B movie ridiculousness of the film. And for me, Sharknado it's the pinnacle of the third movie now, because I'm not huge on the first one. I don't hate it, but it just doesn't live up to the promise. You have this great pulp premise, right, with this ridiculous over-the-top Sharknado thing, and I think my issue with the first couple Sharknados is that they were kind of riffing on other shark stuff. They were riffing on pop culture. By the time you get to Sharknado 3, it's making fun of itself. It's taking the Sharknado and taking that to the next level. And I am on board completely with that concept.
And I'm not at all. Like, I've never been able to be on board with the Sharknado series or most schlock in general. Just hurts me so much to watch.
I just, from the first moment, from frame one, you get that great, like, rip-off of the James Bond opening with the shark mouth going across.
That was, like, one of the things I was going to tweet. I was like, this movie has already lost me, and it's not even 3 seconds in.
Yeah? None of that worked for you at all?
No, none of it at all. Period. It was just terrible. I was like, this is a movie that you shouldn't even be able to mention after you've made it. Like, Thunder 11 should never even be able to watch a James Bond movie.
I get such a big grin on my face for the first probably 20 minutes of the movie. I just can't stop smiling. I cannot stop. It's so dumb and fun. And there's that opening shot where he's running through the National Mall, and they play it like this big dramatic thing. And then you, like, the movie doesn't even, I think they shot those scenes not even really knowing why he was running, just like, let's get some footage on the mall. We've got time. We've got like 5 minutes here. Somebody set up a camera and go. And then you like wind into the movie and it's like, oh, he's just late for a party. He's not even dressed right. He gets to the White House and they're like, here's your clothes. You need to freshen up for your like awards ceremony.
Yeah, they're giving him like the highest civilian medal that you can get, and he's not ready for it.
For the dude whose motto through the whole series is Semper Paratus, always prepared, I think is what that means, Tony.
Close enough.
That's like he's sprinting through Washington, D.C. to get to the White House. It's not that difficult, I don't think. If you're invited to a party at the White House, they probably have a way to get you there on time.
Yeah, I imagine they've got a car service.
I mean, the guy does come and pick him up, but again, it's the like, Colonel Shepard, get in, we need you. And you really get the sense that they had no idea where that sequence was going to go until they film later and like, all right, now we've got this White House party. We'll do that now. And I love it. There's so many, it throws so much crap at the wall. There's so many just random celebrity cameos. You have like,
this movie is also completely unashamed about how it uses like banners in the background to like advertise Subway or Red's like Red Apple Ale or all these other different things. Like, it's so laden with that stuff because it's just straight up a commercial on Sci-Fi for it.
It's really it's so the product placement is so unashamed. It's very just like, here's Xfinity. Here we have they're to the point.
Here are two Xfinity cars right next to each other. This is what you can know about Xfinity.
Right, they're so meta with not meta, I guess, but like they're so deep into it that they're showing other advertising with their advertising, right? Like the advertising on the cars are already making cameos in the movie as a NASCAR prop, and they're also covered in advertising. It's layers and layers deep of all of this B-movie stuff. And yet it's just, for me, it's this joyous, wonderful, stupid event that I cannot help. There's that moment where they Finn and what's her face?
Nova,
yes, I'm sorry. Finn and Nova crash into the pond, like the 2 foot long wide deep pond at Universal Studios, and they come out of there and they're like, suddenly he doesn't have a shirt and she's missing her pants, and they're like in slow motion.
Well, they had to get out of the flight suits.
They didn't show that.
I know.
I understand that is like, there's probably a piece in someone's mind where like, well, yeah, they're going to have to escape, but they didn't do any underwater photography of them getting out. It's just like crash and then cut to them like getting out and looking like really hot with like abs and, you know,
just super dramatic and everything.
Yeah, slow motion,
I'm
water
sorry,
dripping
Frankie
off,
Muniz.
boobs half popping out of her vest.
It's like, sorry, Frankie Muniz, you got to be on a different level for that girl.
And once again,
he had such a brutal death in this movie. We're going to be talking a lot about cameos in this because they are littered everywhere.
Just like in Sharknado 1, I have to say Nova is the best thing about Sharknado 3. I really love her
she's got
character.
post-traumatic shark disorder, though. It's a very serious condition.
Well, yeah, but she's also, like, Finn is the guy who's talking about being prepared. You know, he's running around. But really, he's just kind of randomly running into stuff and dealing with it. Nova bought an RV and is touring around the country chasing the Sharknadoes with a shotgun that has a bayonet that's also a what do you call this?
It's like a
machete.
It's basically like a Space Marine bayonet. It's something you would see like out of Warhammer. It's at least 10 inches long.
I'm surprised
it seems
it's
like.
not a chainsaw on the front of that shotgun.
Yeah.
I'm legitimately
thought that too.
wondering why it's not like they couldn't get a chainsaw to look right on the front of the shotgun. That's the only reason they didn't do that. But it's just
this movie puts like hidden chainsaws in everything, like in prosthetic limbs, in like golden chainsaw awards at the beginning, like just all sorts of stuff.
I honestly, that's one of those things that I really think like there's a part of me that rationalizes that in universe, the golden chainsaw, because it's like his motto is be prepared. And I think somebody thought, well, if we give him this chainsaw and it doesn't work, like that's almost an insult to Finn Shepard. Like it needs to be a functioning chainsaw, or else what does it mean?
Oh, he saves the president's life with it. He saves Mark Cuban's life. Although Mark Cuban doesn't seem to need that much help in this one.
There's that moment where he has he goes to slide, like he has the 2 pistols, he throws them out, and then it cuts, and all of a sudden he has 2 M16s in his hands, and he's sliding across the floor, shooting at the sharks. It revels in that nonsense even more than the first 2 did, and really knows where it's coming from. And also, there's all that stuff with them talking about the sharks and how they became Sharknado sharks. Like now Sharknado sharks are a thing, that they've evolved to live in the sky and they're eating birds and they can survive out of the water. I love it. I love it so much, Tony.
It's not my bag, man.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. This one, like, there are parts where I can see why it's so fun, especially because at least the attitude's consistent throughout the whole movie. They know exactly the type of movie they were developing, so I can't fault them on that. And obviously, it's been pretty successful for all the they've turned Sharknado into a mini event, and for a B movie to like turn into something like this is a pretty interesting phenomenon to witness.
I'm really looking forward to Sharknado 4, although I reserve the right to hate it, Tony. I mean, you guys know my record with the Mega Shark series, how that I really loved Mega Shark versus Mecha Shark, and then Mega Shark versus Colossus comes out, and I'm like, guys, what? You just dropped the ball on my favorite, and so Sharknado 4 could absolutely be something that I'm like, nah, this didn't hit it for me. It didn't work on the level that I wanted it to work. But I'm going to watch it, and for sure I'll review it.
I feel like we almost need to have our own viewing party for that. Just get everybody on Skype or something.
I guess it's going to be live on Sci-Fi. Anybody, we should plan that, Tony. It's great that you brought that up in the middle of this podcast and we haven't done any meetings about it or anything, but that is a good idea. And we should definitely put a pin in that and have some talks about putting together a Skype call for people who want to watch Sharknado live. I am down for that.
Hangouts or whichever can handle more people, but it'll be fun either way.
That would be awesome. For any of you who are into that type of stuff. We haven't even gotten into like the stuff where there's sharks in space. I mean, it's just, I did want to address something because there's a oft repeated maxim about this type of movie that people on the internet like to say, and I don't think it's true. And here, I'm going to make my argument here that there's people who like to say that you can only really have a great bad movie if it wasn't intended to be a bad movie. If people go into it knowing they're making a movie that is not of the greatest quality, then somehow that makes it an illegitimate move. And I don't believe that that's correct. And here's why. Because ultimately storytelling on any level is manipulation. And sometimes it's intended and sometimes it's not. But if we're going to say you can't make schlock on purpose, I think that that's the same as saying you can't make anything. What else is there that we can't make on purpose, Tony? Can we not manufacture wonder on purpose? Can we not manufacture fear on purpose? Like a horror movie goes in to the horror movie intending to scare you. You know, Spielberg goes into his movies intending to create a sense of awe or, you know, whatever is in the story there. Like, sometimes things happen by accident and they work, but the idea that you can't create this atmosphere of silliness and just ultimately, I think that bad special effects can be on purpose, bad acting can be on purpose. And I also think it's not like that they were going to make a good movie, Tony. It's not like that they really would have made Sharknado 3 into a movie that would have made Spielberg cry and, you know, Scorsese would have hung up his camera. They could have done that, but they opted to go for the bad movie because that's what people wanted. There's not an iteration of this movie that's great in a objective
it's just
way.
The premise is too far. Like, it's a premise too far to actually make good. Make conventionally good anyway. Like, you can definitely try to add a little bit of emotion to it. Like, you can do stuff with David Hasselhoff in space. You can try to make it so that it actually has a little bit more of an emotional impact. You can show how the characters have changed and do some other things that like are traditionally good in cinema. But you're not going to be able to make like a super hyper realistic tornado filled with sharks.
So those are all kind of my defenses of the asylum type movies where people are going into it knowing they're making a bad movie. It's not illegitimate. It's not wrong to try to manufacture that any more than it's tried. And people don't like to hear that. I think people want to think of storytelling as this kind of pure thing that just sort of happens out of your heart and it kind of just bubbles up. And that kind of does sometimes, but there are techniques in film and writing and things that you do on purpose. You don't accidentally stumble into a good story 90% of the time, and you don't accidentally stumble into a bad film 90% of the time. Most bad films that people make not knowing that they're making a bad film just end up being boring.
Yeah, most of the time that's the problem. Like, you've seen the Asylum try to make a bunch of horror movies that just really aren't that scary or just outright dumb too. So a lot of times they can miss on their own product.
Yeah, horror's I think, in my opinion, it's been a really tricky nut for them to crack. They haven't, that I've seen, had anything that I was really scared by.
Oh, what, you aren't scared of 13?
No, I'm not, Tony. There is not a magical 13th month of the year that's on the Mayan calendar. That's not how that works. That's such a weird series. Well, one of these days I'm going to end up watching those movies, but even I could not bring myself to watch 13. But I guess I don't, you know, if you're not on board for the idea of this, then there's nothing I can do to convince you. And I'm saying you to the listeners. I know you personally, Tony, but I'm not going to change anybody's mind by telling them that I love it. But if I do sort of buck up against the notion that somehow, because this is on purpose, that it's less legitimate, that it's not real schlock. It totally is. It's ridiculous, and it knows it's ridiculous, and it's still great at being ridiculous.
It still knows its own rules too. It's following a certain set, like it's following the world it built. So I really think that you can definitely make the schlock the right way. A lot of times the reasons why these Asylum movies look really bad is because they've got like, what was it wasn't Dave Michael Ladd, it was someone that we've talked to a little bit over at the Asylum that was saying that they do like the entire special effects for a movie in like 6 days, something like that, like through the CGI. There's only so much polish you can throw on there, and this movie has better CGI than a lot of theirs, but it's still pretty hokey.
Yeah, the honestly, for an Asylum film, the sharks don't look that bad, especially once you're in space with the sharks. They're like, oh, there's a giant shark and a guy flying toward it with a lightsaber chainsaw. That's cool.
There are some times where it's like all of a sudden there's a bunch of sharks that look really flat eating other people, like just because they wanted to make that scene really quickly. Like the entire Good Morning America crew like decides to go down with the ship, and they're like, we're not leaving. And then all of a sudden, like 4 seconds later, like 4 sharks perfectly fall through the ceiling and eat them.
Well, the great thing about the way that they do these movies too, they're so cheap, but they can get a lot of these cameos for practically nothing. I mean, they have the New York mayor in there presenting an award to Finn, and if you watch that scene closely, and I know some of you are just don't want to watch a scene closely of Sharknado, but if you're paying attention there, he's pretty clearly not in the same room with them. Like, they have the same backdrop for him, but it's just like they set up a camera, they shot his scene, they had him say something to Finn, and then Finn later on, like they dubbed him in responding to it. And I think they might have one over the shoulder shot of a guy who looks like the mayor from behind, but that's it. Like, he's not there. He didn't show up for set. So they got a lot of these cameos just based on people who were like, you've already got your Good Morning America set. Let's just have you sit here and say some stupid stuff for about 3 hours. All right, good. Moving on. 3 hours probably generous.
Like how long did it take them to get the scene for George R.R. Martin? Like, that was probably like just a few hours of setup, get him up there, have him like choke up some fake blood, and then call it good. Like, I'm sure a lot of these cameos were just something that they could shoot multiple ones in the same day.
By the way, my man George R.R. Martin clearly has an affinity for these types of movies, or he'll just say yes to whatever, because he's also in the Asylum produced Z Nation as himself.
Really?
Yeah, he shows up as a zombified George R.R. Martin, like at a signing table. Like, the guy's like, I'll make millions when the civilization comes back. And he's like, zombies are like with a pen, just like scribbling all over the pages of, I think they mocked up a copy of what's supposed to be like the second to next book to come out. Winds of Winter, or it was the next one, something with a rose. Anyway, it was actually pretty well done, and
he seems to have fun with this sort of thing though. Like, I watched a segment that was on Conan about like how much he does not care that you don't like that he kills his characters, and it's like him literally jumping on a trampoline naked in his backyard.
Really?
Like, just basically flipping off the camera and being like, fuck you. So, like, I think that he just has fun with this sort of thing. He's in on his own jokes with some of this stuff. He knows it takes years and years to write stuff, so, like, why not have a little fun with it?
The other interesting thing to me in this movie is that they recast the character that plays the daughter. And I thought maybe, I wasn't sure why. I thought maybe she just, like, was above that now. But then I found out that she went on to play Jem in Jem and the Holograms. And that's a different kind of bad movie, Tony.
Yeah, that's a flop. I'm sure at least this movie has made some money back.
Do you think, that's a good question. Do you think Sharknado 3 made more money than Jem and the Holograms? Because Jem and the Holograms did not do well at the box office. And I guarantee you, as far as profit goes, Jem and the Holograms, I think, lost money. But I'm just talking about pure...
Like the overall gross. It really depends on how much ad revenue you can get from Sci-Fi.
Yeah, I don't know how you measure Sharknado 3 exactly, because it's not in theaters. But the box office for Jem and the Holograms was $2.3 million.
I bet you it's Sharknado 3's DVD sales outstrip it.
Probably. I wouldn't put it past them. I also want to bring up a wonderful statistic that I uncovered today, Tony. I know you're going to hate, And I know it's total bullcrap to pull this because it's apples to oranges. But on Metacritic and on Rotten Tomatoes, Sharknado 3 has a higher score than Batman v Superman.
This Netflix called it for me. They were like, "You will not like this movie. This is a 1-star movie for you."
Oh man, I had just have it rated on Netflix. I don't know what they would think that I would rate it, but it's
honestly, I gave it 2 stars because of the cameos. Like a movie that has Frankie Muniz get torn limb from limb and have to use his face to blow himself up, and then Jerry Springer like just gets eaten by a shark. Like just all these cameos made it so that it was more fun for me than it could have been without that sort of thing in there. Like just seeing Michelle Bachmann trying to be serious about a shark attack or a Sharknado is pretty funny.
I gotta say also, back on the topic of product placement, the Universal Studios Orlando stuff, obviously, I assume anyway that they had some deal worked out with Universal because, I mean, they make that park look good. I mean, they name drop it like several times. They show several different specific
There's some
rides.
stock footage where it's like this perfect panning shot that they probably use for their investor promos.
They end up inside the Universal Studios like globe at one point during the Sharknado and get blown around and then end up on top of the tower. And I thought that was a really brilliant use of you got to shoot it somewhere. It's going to look dumb no matter what. And I thought it was cool that they probably got money from Universal Studios from putting them in there for showcasing their stuff. But it doesn't, for me, that stuff doesn't come off as annoying. Like I know what they're doing, but it doesn't seem more hokey than the rest of the movie. I mean, it's still hokey.
Well, it's more fun to be set in a theme park like that. You can do a little more than if it's just like, oh, another mall or something like that.
Right, and so they have the sharks invading different rides. They have a shark on a roller coaster, and I really like how they use the product placement in this. You have the same thing with the NASCAR thing, right? Those NASCAR cars are part of the setup. I've got a fly. I'm going to kill that fly. I'm probably not going to kill that fly, actually. I'm terrible. You've got the setup with the cars, but they also have the Sharknado blow through a NASCAR event. And some of the best over-the-top deliveries are from the NASCAR drivers. Which I hope, by the way, I'm a little bit iffy on them using a real NASCAR crash with the Sharknado cut in. If anybody died in that crash, and I didn't do the research.
Like, deaths happen in NASCAR, but it's kind of rare for them, like, on a crash-to-crash basis, they usually do pretty well.
Well, that was a giant pile-up. I mean, we were seeing cars sliding all over clearly that was not a great time at the track for those people. I hope, I say sensitive, I was going to say that they had enough sensitivity. Yeah, but I'm still going to use this word. Even in the Sharknado, I would hope that nobody's death was sort of mocked by having sharks. If it was just a bad crash and people, cars got wrecked and maybe people got sprained necks or whatever, I'm fine with that. But if anybody died in that crash that they used footage from, I would have a problem with that.
Yeah, well, hopefully it wasn't that particular type of crash. It's not like the Dale Earnhardt thing. Like, it seems like a lot of the deaths that happen in NASCAR are the ones where it doesn't look like that bad of a crash, but it's also just like force and energy going into a wall instead of like sailing through the air.
I wanted to bring up also, I mentioned earlier that they recast the Claudia role of his daughter, and I was really happy with what they did with Claudia in this film compared to Sharknado 1. We're not talking about Sharknado 2 because that film I just basically forgot about, but she's kind of whiny and sort of just hangs around in Sharknado 1. She's just sort of dragged along like, has nothing to do. And in Sharknado 2, they actually make her into a real character. It's as much of a real character as you can have in this movie. I keep making these caveats.
Yeah, the whiny one in this one was the guy that was like trying to hook up with her.
Even he he ends up with like a gun and he's not good at it, but he's like, I'll okay, fine, I'll shoot at these sharks. I wasn't annoyed by him so much. He seemed like just a guy. There wasn't much to that character, but I wasn't.
His end is pretty brutal too.
That almost felt, I'm gonna say, over the top, and I'm sure that I'm gonna get tweets like, "How can you say it's over the top?" But even in the movie like this, I think you got to be sensitive to some kinds of tone, and that felt cruel.
That one did feel a little bit cruel. Then there's parts that feel kind of cruel but are pretty funny, like the one lady that's like yelling that you can't take that car, like I'm gonna get fired. And
that one was slightly less objectionable to me. I don't know, maybe because we had nobody connect to her as a character, but to show them have their moment together, it not necessarily cruel to him because he just dies, but cruel to her, like that, you know, they're fighting off those sharks, standing side by side, you know, he kisses her. It's like a sort of a moment of triumph for her. And then the movie kind of basically slaps her in the face with, yeah, he just got killed by a shark and you're watching his blood ooze under the door. It was just, and she never gets any kind of resolution from that. She's just at the end of the movie, you know, sort of meeting up with the people. Oh, Mom, Dad, you're okay.
Yeah, she got over it quickly.
Well, in a crisis situation, I can understand where you would be running on adrenaline still for that point. And I keep imagining people yelling at me for having any serious thoughts about this movie at all. But I do think that, we're here to critique. And regardless, I'm going to critique it on the level that it is. I'll let it be silly and stupid. I'm not going to talk about cinematography or anything, but characters still matter.
The cinematography in this one is a lot better than a lot of Asylum movies I've seen.
There's still some great, like, I don't even know if they're mistakes because they're so blatantly bad. Like when Nova first shows up to Finn, like she's in front of the car and then like you cut to her way off to the side, like walking towards him in slow motion. And it's such a jarring moment where you're like, she ran all the way over there in those 2 seconds when you were cut away and then like walked towards him. It makes no sense.
What I thought was funny with her is that like they're like, think this thing will be able to stand up to a Sharknado, and she hits it and like the tire practically falls off. She's like, oh yeah. They're trying to show how tough the vehicle is, but like literally the cover comes off whenever she hits it.
I just love that she has the license plate Supernova. I was like, yeah, you are, baby. You're super. I'm sad that I looked up Sharknado 4. She's not in it, which is a bad sign. Bad sign for Sharknado 4 if you don't have Nova in it.
Oh, maybe she's just not cast on there yet.
I'm sure they're done shooting it. Well, I say I'm sure. I'm relatively positive that they're wrapping it up because it's coming out in the end of July. And despite the fact that they've turned these around pretty quickly, I would imagine that they're a little bit ahead of the game as far as they're not shooting it in July and putting it out in July. They've got some lead time. Excuse me, burp there. I'm relatively positive. I don't know for sure if I have anything else like that I can add.
Well, you didn't really add anything about what happened in space.
It's sharks in space. That's all. That's just like, that's the culmination of the movie. And I'm going to say this and set myself up for bitter disappointment. But I think you actually mentioned this to me and somebody else on Reddit I was talking about also, like, how do they top this? If Sharknado 4 is a sci-fi, like in space, science fiction, sharks in space the whole time movie, or on Mars or something, where they just throw it out and like go else, I would love that. I really want them to keep stepping it up and keep taking it to the next level.
I would honestly go Sharks in Time. That way you could get Bill Burst as Lincoln in there.
Oh yeah. That also would be sharks, time travel, Sharknadoes. Oh, I want that. I want all of it, Tony. Let's have time travel Sharknadoes, but in space with Bill Lincoln. I'm dumb. Abraham Lincoln in space. I having looked up the cast list, it doesn't look like that's where they're going. But there's no mention of like Benjamin Franklin or anything like that. They do call it The Fourth Awakens, which either could be a reference to the 4th of July. Maybe we're taking place back in the Revolutionary War, or it could be like, hey, Star Wars, we're punting on you and we're also taking place in space.
They did have a lightsaber chainsaw.
Yes, they did. That Nova made somehow. There's just so many little things. I keep thinking about, you touched on it briefly, the chainsaw hand. So great. Like she just has that chainsaw hand and uses it several times and has that robot arm, from having her hand bit off. And I think Sharknado 2, we didn't watch Sharknado 2 because we don't care. This one's superior and we're going for that. But it's a movie that's completely unafraid of itself. And I get it. I get it. It's not everybody's jam. But it is my jam, and this is, for me, one of the pinnacle movies of the B movie genre. It's up there with Sharknado. Mega Shark versus Mecha Shark. It's up there with Abraham Lincoln versus Zombies. Although maybe because Abraham Lincoln versus Zombies takes itself more seriously a little bit. You could argue the merits of all these things, but it's really one of the greats in the genre and from the Asylum, and I just love it. You're welcome not to. Many people do, but I think that it's definitely got. It's almost Bollywood. It's almost that level of ridiculous.
Yeah, actually, there are a lot of scenes that kind of feel Bollywood, like the crazy jumping around. The only thing it's missing is like one musical sequence in there.
Once you tweeted me, Tony, because we were tweeting back and forth, and you said, well, at least it's not a musical. And I said, why couldn't it be both? And then I thought, because I've seen it before and I knew there wasn't a musical sequence, I thought, man, I wish there was like just a music video in the middle of this. That would totally work with the tone of the movie.
Yeah, and Nova could definitely be the hot girl in the music video, like what they always have in Bollywood.
And you could have like Left Shark make an appearance, or is it Right Shark? I forget, from the Katy Perry from 2 Super Bowls ago. Memes that nobody's going to remember in 2 more years, Tony.
I don't know. That meme has got some legs to it. I've seen that cosplay many times at like just different places.
No, it's a shark. He doesn't have legs. That's how they work. They just have fins.
Well, you may be right about this one.
Hey, did you know if you went to humanechoes.com and clicked the Become a Member button, you could get more episodes of this podcast that aren't aired to the public? That's right. They don't want me to tell you about it, but it's true. Go to humanechoes.com and click Become a Member for more awesome episodes of the Human Echoes podcast.
I think we're going to move on from Sharknado, Tony, and talk about some other stuff. Did we get viewer questions this week?
We did. David Webb sent us a question. Or 2 questions, actually. His name is @DocOccupant on Twitter, and you can expect his podcast with his clone here very shortly. Says, what do you consider to be a must-watch movie from the films you've reviewed this year?
Man, this is going to be a really recent one, but I got to go with Look Who's Back. I mean,
that's definitely one of the most watched ones. It's the one I've probably told more people about to go home and watch than any other we've seen this year.
I'm going to look...
That and Deadpool.
I don't know if Deadpool is much must watch. It's just like you're going to watch it at some point. So
it's must watch for me, but Look Who's Back is probably the best comedy I've seen in a while. And I don't know. That was last week's review. So go check that out if you haven't. That movie is something spectacular.
I'm looking through previous episodes of things that we've talked about. I mean, Nosferatu, we talked about this year. I'd say that's definitely must watch. I mean, Best Offer is good. Like, it's really good. I don't know if I go so far as must watch.
Dope was pretty good.
But again, that might be sort of personal taste, but it's, because of the was that this year? Oh, dang. December 25th. I was going to say Silent Night, Deadly Night is must watch.
Yes, but if you're even remotely a fan of slashers, that's one that you must watch, and it's within a year, so it's close enough.
But not this year. So it was not. It's not in 2016. It was the end of last year. So it we got to let that one go. But those are the ones I definitely it's possible that we're still in the glow of that one, Tony, and that's why we're picking it. But I don't think so. I think that one is one where all of the pieces really came together in such a powerful way that. It defies explanation. It's a sublimely perfect film in every way, and I feel like I'm overselling it because it's not like a Django Unchained or something like where you're gonna watch it and be blown away by how it looks, but the story is so immersive and so powerful that's just I love it. I mean, I think. I keep thinking about it. I just wrote the rundown yesterday and it posted today. And there was so much to say about it that I didn't get to all of it even, but it was just, it's such a powerful message and a great story. And it works on every single level. And we reviewed it last week, so I won't talk about it too much, but that one's must watch.
And I would agree with that. Next question from David is, if it came to the choice between having freedom and being secure or safe, which would you choose?
That's a tough one. Tougher than it used to be for me. It used to be I was very much like, yes, freedom. Freedom is a thing. All freedom all the time. Which I still believe in freedom. Freedom is great. But now that I have a family, now that I have 2 children, a toddler and a young child coming up, there is definitely an instinct in me that wants to protect them to a certain degree and is willing to give up maybe a little freedom for that. I mean, that's sort of becoming a parent is already an exercise in giving up freedom to someone else in a way. Like, you become a parent, you're just sort of like said, well, I don't want to decide what I want to watch or where I want to go or whatever without major forethought. Becoming a parent is a lot worse than most totalitarian states as far as the stuff that gets taken away from you for a while, at least.
Friend of mine always called his kid like the boss or the dictator.
Well, I don't let that happen. My kid better do what I tell him to do, or there's going to be some problems. But
this is whenever his kid was like 6 months old, like pretty much decided, yeah, you're staying in on Friday night. You're pretty much just going to be around me, and I'm going to dictate your sleep schedule and everything else.
Yeah, that's true. They're up at like 4 o'clock in the morning, like, mommy, gotta go potty. Like, well, go potty. Like, just go. The door's right there. You didn't have to come in here. You can go by yourself. We're not going to come in there and walk you through it. You know what you're doing at this point. Go in there. And then he like takes everything all the way off and he's like, help me get my underwear back on. I'm like, you'd have to take it all the way off to begin with. I don't know what the problem is. And I'm like, I'm on the other side of the bed. She's closest to the door. So she has to deal with it all the time. And then she's all grumpy. And then I have to be like, yeah, now she's grumpy. So
thankfully, my niece is already getting on a pretty good sleep schedule. She keeps sleeping all the way through the night, and she's only 6 months old, so she's doing pretty well.
I do gotta say, though, I think I do lean more idealistic in a lot of senses. I do tend to, at least in principle, lean towards, freedom and just sort of. For one thing, like the whole idea that the government is making us safer by, with data collection or whatever, and that we need that to make us safe. Not only do I think that is against freedom, but I don't think that's true.
Yeah, they're collecting way too much data to even be parsed even by supercomputers. Like, if you used actual profiling to figure out who you should be targeting, you can spend a lot more time on those resources rather than gathering everything from everyone. Because it feels like in the wrong hands, the system that we've created now could easily be part of a tyrannical, like tyrant state, like something where people are a totalitarian state, where if all of a sudden you've done one thing wrong, they can go back through your history and just build this mountain of evidence. And like, even if it when they have access to this, how hard would it be how hard would it be to forge some bad things? Like to just bury somebody in a bunch of things that are like, well, in 2007, you were sending texts about this, this, and this. And it's like, you've got no way to verify or deny that happened. Like, they could easily just make stuff up.
Well, and also we even have other unintended consequences. Let's say the war in Iraq. Let's pretend that let's just take away all the stuff about oil and things, which I don't think is a really legitimate cause to take away.
We didn't really get a return on investment in that, if that's what we were going there for.
Well, we didn't really get a return on investment if we were going there for security either, because as bad as Saddam was, and he was not a nice guy, there was a certain amount of stability in the region that we went in and totally messed up.
You don't have it falling into 3 separate states now, which if you were going to do that, you might as well have just turned it into the 3 separate entities that are there, the Sunni, the Shia, and the Kurds. Like, they should have their own states if it's going to get this bad and just continue getting worse.
Right, and we have ISIS stirred up now, which I'm not going to say is 100% like, we went into Iraq and now it's because of ISIS, but I can't believe that isn't a contributing factor.
Yeah, like you would be ignoring a lot of history if you didn't think that sectarian or non-sectarian violence and everything started up because of the power vacuum created by us leaving. Like, it's pretty easy to see that if we wouldn't have had the whole Iraq war, that ISIS wouldn't exist right now, or at least not in the same way that it would. You might still have it based out of Syria and some of the other areas over there, but it seems like we created this power vacuum, and this is the result of it.
So I guess my answer is I would be willing to give up a certain amount of freedom if there was a guarantee of safety, but I don't buy into anybody's guarantees, so giving up my freedom doesn't make sense on any level. I'm not 100% idealistic, but I've lived long enough to know that nobody knows what's going to happen, and I think most of the people making the decisions are probably trying to do the right thing on some level. I don't buy into the evil government trying to mess us up. I think that everybody just wants a little bit more power and wants their jobs to be just a little bit easier. The drug enforcement people just like, come on, you guys have this data already. I mean, yes, but I mean, we could catch some drug guys too if you told us about this terrorist thing. And these drug guys are really bad. Some of them people are getting killed. And then, so you get that. And then all of a sudden the next level down of the cops are like, well, why can't we have that? This guy ran a red light and that could have been serious. That mother in that minivan almost got killed. You need to give us your secret satellite. And I'm extrapolating out to a little bit of a silly case. But
yeah, a lot of people are saying, well, like, if we have this, why are there still pedophiles out there? Like, how have you not found them out? Like, things like that. And I understand, like, the desire for it, but I honestly think you can't have a free society whenever you've literally got Big Brother listening to everything you do. It's not in the sense that government is particularly evil. It's that most of the time it's absolutely incompetent and can be exploited.
Yeah, and you don't... Yeah. What Tony said is what I think as well. And so it's not really a real question. It's not like you get to give up your freedom and get more security. You just give up your freedom.
Yeah.
Stuff can still suck for you, and then you don't have as much freedom anymore. So in the real world, it's not even a scenario that makes sense. It's not like North Korea has people that are really ultra safe because they have no freedom. They're not. Like they're in a bad way, even so.
All of this state-sponsored everything is their shackles, is what it really comes down to. And like I don't think that we're really on the precipice of that, like a lot of people say. I think if you had somebody like a Trump in there who has said some things that are definitely anti-constitutional, especially about the treatment of certain minority groups and everything, like that could be a serious problem in this country. But I also think that we've got enough checks and balances in place that it won't turn to that. But it also goes down to like Second Amendment rights and everything. It's like, how much safer would this country be if we banned guns and everything? And there's a lot of things that you could look at and see that would probably help a lot of like local things, but it might also open the door for more tyranny to come in because we wouldn't have any way of defending ourselves. And whenever you tell people that, they're like, oh, you're just a right wing, like you're a wing nut, you wouldn't be able to stop the military and everything. It's like, well, how do you think the Iraqis beat us?
We've gotten really political in these last podcasts lately, Tony.
Yeah, a little bit.
We're not even like... it made sense with Look Who's Back. It's David's web fault this week. Sharknado 3 certainly didn't have any.
Especially because I know that David is very far on the left spectrum. Like, I know that he at one point was a self-labeled Marxist, and I don't think that's the case anymore, but I think he would have a little bit of issue with some of the things that we're talking about here, so it'll be interesting to see his reaction on Twitter to this conversation.
Well, I think from what I've read, probably Karl Marx himself would not have been necessarily as radical as some of the people who have taken up his banner. And to a certain, people like Marx and on the complete opposite end, Ayn Rand, are interesting because they really exist as a reaction to things that are wrong. Ayn Rand comes out of, I believe it was in the Soviet Union, and so she saw the oppression of, everybody has to be the same. Everybody has, sort of the death of the individual as a driving force in the world. And she saw that was a bad thing. And so she comes out with things that, we can look at today as objectivism and say, well, that's not right. But as a reaction to communism, it's sort of understandable where she's saying, listen, we can't lose the power of the individual. And so she goes the other way and says we can't have any communism. And, maybe the balance is somewhere in the middle, but it's important to have these reactionary things that pull us back and forth in these directions to keep us somewhat stable.
Yeah. And even my reactions to a lot of political stuff is akin to that. Like, I have a lot of libertarian values, and a lot of that is straight up a reaction to like weird little bits of oppression I see with people talking about language now, the way people talk about like the Fourth Amendment not mattering, the way people talk about like, oh, if you're not doing anything wrong, you don't have to worry about anything. Like I see a lot of this stuff, and that's why I end up getting more reactive to it. I'm not libertarian in the sense that I think that I really like public roads. I think that public schools are a good way to keep a lot of people from becoming absolute losers. But like there are a lot of things that I agree with, like that libertarian side on freedom, just because I see a lot of people willing to give it up for almost nothing in return.
Speaking of freedom and government surveillance, I was reading a really interesting article recently about the CIA's Twitter account. And it never occurred to me, first of all, that the CIA would have a Twitter account, Tony. But they have a Twitter account. And it's how do I describe this? It's like what you would think a really mismanaged idea, a government idea of what the CIA Twitter account would be, because it's kind of jokey and, like making fun of itself a little bit. The first tweet was, "We can neither confirm nor deny that this is our first tweet." And it was interesting because I never thought about the fact that there's a guy somewhere behind all those
tweeting
tweets
on behalf of the CIA, just like some college intern or something.
Yeah, and there was like crazy like mix-up things where they were trying to do a this day in history, but they forgot to tag it at this day in history. So they were talking about something like North Korea like bombed somebody up. I'm just like, what? North Korea's bombing people? And the guy's like sitting on the can, like getting all these like notifications on his phone from the CIA account. Like, oh crap, that was not right, guys. It's one thing when you're like a podcaster and you misspell a tweet, but can you imagine
I was out of it this morning, and I ended up sending out the question or the tweet asking for questions 3 times, because twice I posted it to my account with a typo, and then the third time it finally landed correctly. Like I was barely able to open my eyes. I was like, I gotta send this out because we need questions.
Well, they also did a live tweet thing of like, they had a 5 years later live tweet of the capture and killing of Osama bin Laden, where they're like, at this, 5 o'clock, so-and-so is getting ready to take off, and 6 o'clock, this is happening. And it was just, it's interesting to think about in a world of social media and how people on the internet treat each other, how that it's sort of this, nobody takes anything seriously. And so there's this tendency to want to be like, yeah, we're one of the cool kids too. We're the CIA. Yeah, we have jokes and we have cool things. We're live tweeting stuff, guys. And I never thought about how difficult a line that would be to walk. Of you can't be silly, but sometimes, you have to at some point also not take yourself 100% seriously. It's a weird thing. I'm glad I'm not that guy. I'm really glad I'm not that guy who has to figure out how serious to be with the CIA's Twitter account.
Oh, it's kind of like the police department in Colorado. Like on 420, they ended up tweeting out this thing about like how they wouldn't be trying to catch you riding dirty. Like just be safe about how you do it and stay at home. Don't drive. That
sounds, well, I guess if they're being really jokey, that would be one thing. But that sounds legitimate. Like, all right, guys, we're not going to, this is not a big crackdown day for us, but don't be stupid and hurt people. Like that sounds like a legitimate thing for the police to tweet out.
Yeah, I thought it was too. And like we didn't have any major issues with that on 420. There were times where I drove down the street and literally saw clouds coming out of people's houses, but it's an interesting day out here.
We have to talk a little bit because the day that this comes out, we're also releasing our Captain America Civil War trailer. And we did this for Batman v Superman.
It's our actual episode, review. Not just trailer.
Yeah, no, we put together a trailer, Tony. We saw the movie, we cut it together into a trailer. You guys are going to like it. Yes, our review is coming out on Friday, and I wanted to do a little prediction, Tony. I wanted to see what your anticipation level is for this. Because we did this for some previous movies. We've done it for Star Wars. We did it for Batman v Superman. And this is a big one for us. We've been waiting for it. Been looking forward to it. Where are you at? What is your anticipation level for Batman v Superman right now?
I'm at for Batman v Superman. I'm just giving you crap. I know exactly what you're talking about.
We're in the final 10 minutes of the podcast, and my brain has checked out. My mouth is still running, but the words that are going to come out might not make 100% sense.
Well, with Civil War, I'm probably at like an 8.5 out of 10 for anticipation for it. Like, I've had enough comic book movies this year to kind of keep that tampered down a little bit. But Iron Man being my favorite of the Avengers and Captain America being my second, I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I actually anticipate that there will be semi-permanent casualties happening here. So I'm excited to see if they're actually going to go through with that. And it's an interesting time to be a comic book fan or to be a fan of like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because things are getting really tense. They're bringing in a bunch of new people. It's just going to be good times.
I read something that made me, I hope this doesn't, it's not a spoil, it's not anything plot specific, but it does kind of hint at where this movie's going tonally. I read an interview with the Russo brothers where they said that they used Empire Strikes Back as a arguing point for where they wanted to go with this film. They were like, guys, I know we've been pretty upbeat and stuff with the Marvel films up until now, but we don't have to have happy endings every time. We can have some downer stuff happen and still have it work out. And also the thing they talked about was everybody likes chocolate ice cream until you feed it to them, 7 days a week for a month. And then suddenly they would really like some orange sherbet. This movie, if it's the orange sherbet of the, now it's granted, Marvel hasn't been stuck in a tonal rut exactly. I would say they've all, as far as the upbeat tone, but they've been making very different types of films with their superheroes. They've been doing a great job of keeping a varied type of, output where you have Thor: The Dark World being kind of this weird fantasy and, Guardians of the Galaxy being this great space epic and Ant-Man being this comedy heist movie, to the point where I think that one of the failures of Avengers Age of Ultron, quote unquote failure, I know it's a good movie and it did really, really well, but one of the failures of that movie is that it felt like kind of a throwback standard Marvel movie. There wasn't anything about Avengers Age of Ultron that really felt groundbreaking, and they've been breaking a lot of ground, and it looks like they're going to continue to. And I am really looking forward to Captain America Civil War breaking that new ground, coming up with some new stuff that takes us to places that we haven't been before in this universe.
And even if it is a downer, it's like you said, like the Marvel Cinematic Universe in the end is a giant story leading to Thanos and everything else. So like you can have that movie that has that goes to some different places without it ruining the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Although I would say that the MCU stuff that's on Netflix is already at a pretty dark level to begin with. Like if you watch some of the sequences that happened with the Punisher, that stuff was pretty brutal.
Getting his own show, by the way, was announced this week.
Which I'm excited for that because after watching him on Daredevil, which he was only in like maybe half of this season, a lot of the story ended up being about Elektra. Like I could definitely see him having a show.
I haven't finished watching Daredevil. Is the Elektra stuff good? Because
I liked it a lot.
When she came on screen, I was like, what is up with this woman? She's manipulative and self-centered and kind of a jerk. Like a rich girl, like trying to put him into a position where he's, I guess it's, I think I can spoil a little bit, especially for the beginning of her arc where she's like, all right, here's the guy who killed whoever, I forget, here, you can kill him. And it was like, what are you doing, woman? This is not, I don't know. I didn't ever see a point where I was going to be on her side. And it seemed like they were trying to build to that.
Oh, like whenever you start understanding a little bit of her background and what happens with Stick and everybody else, like it makes sense. And also this season turns full on 80s mode back whenever everything was about ninjas. So there's a lot of ninjas that happen in the second half of the season. It's just a lot of fun to watch.
Okay. I wanted to know, I wanted to read on her character because my initial instinct, and I stopped watching at that point. Like I haven't gotten back into Daredevil yet. And I've talked about my sort of issues with Netflix Marvel stuff already, with how dark it all is and how I kind of that I need to be broken up a little bit more. I would like a few more occasional jokes. It doesn't seem like that they're going that way with that series stuff, which is fine.
I think Luke Cage and Iron Fist are going to be a little bit lighter from what I've seen.
I hope so. Honestly, I keep looking forward to this stuff. It's not like I'm bored of Netflix having Marvel on it. I'm really looking forward to Iron Fist. I'm somewhat looking forward to Luke Cage. We haven't seen too much of that, but and I'm definitely looking for the Defenders. I hope that they make that like a movie, like a big event movie that's maybe not as big as like the Avengers, but still they put a considerable amount of investment in it, and it doesn't look all cheap and dark and you can't see anything. Maybe it could be fine if it's
Netflix Dread TV show to come on.
I will believe that when I see it, as always, Tony. Carl Urban has been talking about that forever. It's like, what is the, I mean, eventually one of the sort of lesser known Ghostbusters, when people didn't become a big star afterwards, kept talking up, oh yeah, we're going to make a Ghostbusters 3. There's going to be another Ghostbusters. And stupid fly. Not the guy who was talking about Ghostbusters. And same thing, I guess it worked out for Ryan Reynolds with Deadpool. Although he didn't just talk about it, he went in and like hired some guys to write a script and went behind the screen.
He made that little that little CGI thing too, or helped get that made.
He didn't. I don't think he made that. I think that.
He did voice work for it. It was just a way to prove that the concept would work for Deadpool. And they ended up putting that almost like scene for scene into the movie too. They remade it and everything.
That's one of those things too, where nobody's willing to admit who leaked that. But it's probably a marketing ploy. Either somebody who really wanted to see the project happen at Fox, or Fox themselves trying to gauge the audience's willingness to see this movie, put that out, and they're like, yeah, we accidentally leaked this. And I don't know exactly what level of real accident it was, but Ryan Reynolds does not claim responsibility, but he's like, thank you to whoever leaked that, because that's what got the ball rolling. And I hear Carl Urban talking about Dredd a lot, and I wonder how much of it is just because people keep asking him, and he's like, yeah, and I'm sure he liked doing the movie, but I don't know how much he's actually moving and shaking to make it happen like Ryan Reynolds did with Deadpool.
Yeah. Oh, I just kept thinking about how well you could make a Dredd series as an episodic thing over like 10 episodes, something like that, and I think it could be a lot of fun.
The most interesting thing to me about, well, not about Dredd exactly, but the thing I took away from Dredd is that contained thing. And they've announced recently that Ben Affleck's Batman movie is going to have a lot of the villains in it. Like, it's going to be villain packed. It's not just going to be like, this is the Joker movie, and then he fights Hush or somebody. They're going to have a lot of villains, and it has made me wonder if they are going to do a smaller indoor, like Batman in Arkham Asylum, the Raid style movie.
That would be so awesome.
I would love that.
That would be so awesome.
Where he's going through and maybe he has to make an alliance with some character, some of the villains that he's put away, or, he has to, obviously there's a lot of them who are going to want to fight him, and maybe there's a mystery of how he got there. Who knows? But that,
you see him like sneaking through the sewers and having to fight Croc and all these other people, like getting his way through the different levels.
Yeah. It could definitely be video game-esque with Batman, and I really would like to see a lower budget, $30 million Batman movie. I know that they don't want to go that way. I know they want to have big explosions and giant budget and all that stuff. And maybe, $30 million probably Batman's or Ben Affleck's salary. But
I'm sure he's a producer on that one and everything too. So if he made a slightly cheaper one, he could reap the benefits there.
Knowing as big of a fan of Batman as he is, knowing that he's probably played the Arkham Asylum games, and thinking about movies like The Raid and like Dredd, there's something there. There is room for a Batman movie that's all Batman. Like, imagine that. Imagine a movie with almost no Bruce Wayne, a movie with almost no like detective stuff, but not without heart. Like, it's not just an hour and a half long fight scene, but it is just one self-contained sequence of Batman in this place trying to get out, trying to, solve some mystery or whatever, but without like 8,000, he has his gadgets whatever he has on his belt, but it's not like he has everything at his disposal. That could be awesome.
Yeah, it definitely could be, especially if he, like, I just keep thinking of like every level of the prison and what you could do with that. Like, just so many different possibilities. And like, you could even get in some pretty obscure villains from the DC universe and put them on film too.
Even some of the ones that aren't as obscure haven't been done well. I mean, like the Riddler is a guy I think could be a really interesting like you could do some weird psychological stuff with that guy and take him in some interesting places beyond just, I have question marks all over me. Like a guy who's obsessed with puzzles.
Mean you're not a fan of Jim Carrey's version of the Riddler?
I actually haven't. I've seen pictures, but honestly, I've never seen that movie.
I watched the first 10 minutes of it the other day because it was just on TV, and I was like, I can't do this right now. Like, it's just a little too much.
But if he's a guy who's obsessed with puzzles and kind of like laying out weird kind of Saw type, not completely Saw type traps, but sort of setting up scenarios for Batman to solve the puzzle, you know, and save people in sort of a sequence there's a great Riddler story that could be told with somebody like that. And that might not even be the character of the Riddler. Maybe I'm just misunderstanding fundamentally who he is because I'm not a deep comic reader, but there's in my mind, there's a direction that you could take that guy that isn't the campy stuff that we've seen already. That's like a serious, grounded type of, without being super, I mean, we don't have to have everything be dark, but just sort of like it's a real character who has this, proficiency with puzzles and things and these riddles that Batman has to solve and follow these clues around. That could be awesome.
I definitely agree.
But we'll find out when that movie comes out and when Civil War comes out. We will have our review posted basically today. If you're listening to this on the podcast release day, unless something goes wrong, we will have our Civil War review out on Friday. So check that out. And that is going to wrap the podcast for us, Tony.
For sure. And what we need you guys to do right now is to go to humanechoes.com. I'd like you to look at becoming a member. It's the best way to support us. Like even $2 a month gets you the bonus podcasts. And that's worth thousands of views on YouTube. It's worth thousands of ad revenue hits, just that $2 a month. And that is a fantastic way to keep us creating cool content for you. The bonus podcasts are some of the funnest things that we get to do on this thing. We're actually recording one on Thursday this week. We'll be releasing it same day. It's just this fun little thing that Al Joseph and I get to do. It's a little more freeform. We have a lot of topics we get to talk about, but it's honestly one of my favorite products. And it's the best way to help us keep this thing going. So if you go to humanechoes.com, click on Become a Member, we would really, really, really appreciate that. Also, you can support us by buying a t-shirt, which I'm wearing my Octoshark shirt right now.
Ditto here.
Yeah, that was kind of accidental. But if you go to humanechoes.com, click the t-shirt link, or go to TeePublic and search for Human Echoes, you can pick yourself up a shirt. We've got 7 different ones on there right now, so like to see see some of you guys wearing those.
Also, if you're watching this on YouTube as a video, please like and subscribe. If you're a podcast listener, either give us a review on iTunes and subscribe there. Those really help us, even if you're not an iTunes person. The reviews on iTunes really help us out. Or if you're on Android, subscribe to us on the brand new Android Google Play Music app. It's not new. I mean, the Google Play Music app has been around for a while, but it's stock with most phones, and it has podcast support built in now. I've been using it for all of this week now, Tony. I love it. I'm sorry, more of my podcasts that I like are not on there. Some of them are not ported over yet.
A lot of people just need to go to the portal and actually just upload theirs.
But hopefully Google will eventually get some sort of RSS support, like other podcast things have. But I understand that they want to have it because you can jump back and forth from different devices. Like I was doing it today where I started streaming a podcast on my desktop and I wanted to get up, just pop my phone open, started streaming it the same way, like on my phone. And it was just seamless and wonderful. And that's a great way to get the podcast. If you're an Android user, definitely check that out. What are we going to be watching next week, Tony?
We are going to be watching Birdemic.
Neither one of us has seen this movie, by the way.
No, we've seen trailers. It's kind of infamous among B movies. It looks like the worst version of Hitchcock's Birds possible. The CGI looks incredibly bad. It's going to be painful, and we will give you guys the download on that.
I'm hoping it will not be painful. You know. I believe that I'm going to enjoy it, but Tony might hate it.
It's very possible that I might hate it.
For those of you who do believe in B movies are only good if they didn't mean to make a B movie, this one's going to be your jam.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see you next week. And have a good one.
Have a good one, guys. Bye. Don't sass him.
Also, I thought the fire was supposed to spread. What the heck?
It's raining.
Oh. Well, that's a low.
Any other completely inaccurate things you want to scream out? The trees are dropping things on me and the fires aren't spreading! Well, actually...